Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Phil Arno.
And I'm Kim Piazza. And if you're a wife, a husband, a grandparent, a teen, you need to meet our next guest. The internationally renowned psychologist and New York Times best-selling author of more than 30 books has helpful techniques, tips, and clear insight that will change the way you look at and resolve the parenting, marriage, and relationship issues in your life. We welcome Western New York native, home for the summer with a stop right here at WBBZ, Dr. Kevin Leman. Welcome, Uncle Cubby.
Hey, good to be with you. Yeah, the Uncle Cubby. We should clarify
We
this.
should clarify that.
Miss Kimmy and I go way, way back, and I spoke at a camp down along Chautauqua, and my niece and nephew went to camp there, and of course they all called me Uncle Cub or Uncle Cubby, which was my pet name. I was the youngest of 3 children. And so that sort of stuck. So I meet adults all over the country, and many times on TV shows who refer to me as Uncle Cubby or Dr. Cubby.
They went to camp with Kim and they still grew up normally.
Oh, she was a hoot even as a kid, I'm telling you. She was in the middle of everything. If there was
I've
fun.
been called worse than a hoot, Phil.
I can
Thinking
right
about
here
you.
on this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I worked with Dr. Kevin Leman's daughters, two of your daughters.
Yeah, and I told them, they're both here now, they're down in Chautauqua, and I told them what I was doing today. And they said, oh my goodness, that is so good, and that is the perfect spot for Kim. They had no problem believing that she was doing what she was doing, so good to be with you.
I
Thanks.
had tons of fun with your daughters, and of course family is so important to you.
Yeah, 5 kids, you know, we had kids at every age possible. We had one at 42, she was our little surprise. And then we had the shocker at 48. That's interesting when you have one at 48. But they're good kids, they're all done well. Our youngest got a job at Disney Imagineering. So she's helping design rides at Disney. So
wow.
Pretty cool. My son Kevin is the executive producer and head writer of the Ellen Show, makes Ellen funny. I got kids who are, Chrissy is a kindergarten teacher in my school I'm building. I'm building a charter school out in Arizona right now. And my oldest daughter is one of the top lieutenants in one of the biggest school districts in America today.
So you have
they're all
over the country.
Yeah.
In all walks of life.
Yeah.
How to Build a Successful Family by Dr. Leman.
That's
well, keep it simple. Don't give your kids things. That's the last thing they need is things.
And that's one of the toughest things for parents, because as parents growing up, you always want to have your kids turn out better than you.
Yeah,
you always want them to have more than you had.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tradition that goes way back. My parents grew up in the Depression, and they always wanted to have their kids, you know, just have a better life.
Well, it's interesting how that follows you through life. I remember Lee Iacocca, the former head of Chrysler, saying he could never throw out a piece of steak. He had to keep it in the refrigerator. And, you know, waste
not, want not.
Right, exactly.
It sort of stays with you, but I think today, we'd all agree that kids today are indulged. They view reward as their right. We have kids shorter than a yardstick are in full control of adults and families, and it's crazy. And I come along and say, hey, wait a minute, parents, just be the parent, be an authority over your kid, not an authoritarian. There's a difference. And, you know, it makes sense to parents, and I've written 50-some books now, and my goodness, they're pretty simple books in many ways, but parents who just do some things differently within a couple of days can have a new kid on their hands, and that's what's sort of fun to watch.
Well, what's really interesting is that, you know, your books are full of so much common sense advice, but it seems like it's the common sense advice that we've lost so much of.
Common sense is a key word. I mean, this entire social environment today seems to be migrating away from common sense. You know, it seems to be a situation where you can't talk about the reality of the world. You have to talk about what's politically correct and what's acceptable in the world.
Well, I'll share this with you. I wrote a book called Have a New Kid by Friday. I got hung up on Friday books. I got Have a New Kid by Friday, Have a New Teenager by Friday, Have a New You by Friday, Have a New Husband by Friday. Will there ever be Have a New Wife by Friday? No, there won't be. For obvious reasons. But anyway, with a Have a New Kid by Friday, I think the best line, Phil, in that book is this: an unhappy child is a healthy child. And there's times your son, your daughter, has to be unhappy. But the goal today of most parents, I mean, every place I go, I just spoke down in central Pennsylvania, and I'm greeted with, "Oh, Dr. Lehman, we're so glad you're here because we too want happy, happy, happy children." I tell parents, wait a minute, that's not the goal. The goal is to rear up a responsible kid. Well, if you want a responsible kid, what do? You give them responsibility. Even young kids can help set the table. 11-year-olds who can text like a woodpecker that's got ADHD are completely capable of paying all your bills in your family online, better than you are, parent. So why not give kids real responsibility so they learn that life isn't a cakewalk? We don't snowplow the roads of life for them. But what do parents do? "Hey, would you kids turn that music down? I'm trying to do your homework." And they do their homework. They do their projects for them. It's crazy.
Well, the logic that kind of speaks to that point, I mean, arguably one of the greatest generations, for instance, was the generation that went through the Depression and World War II and really lived the hardship of all those years. And look how they turned out. I mean, that was a generation with the most character in the history of our country, arguably.
Well, how about failure? I think the home ought to be a place where kids learn to fail. Talk to anybody who's successful, and they'll tell you that there was failure in their life. John Wooden, the great basketball coach from UCLA, won 10 national titles, if I remember right. You know, he never told his team to go out and win. And when I read that, I did a double take on it. I said, what do you mean you never told him to win? And I checked it out, because a friend of mine, Lute Olson, who's a Hall of Fame basketball coach, verified that. He said, that's right, Kevin. He didn't. But he told them to play the game of basketball the way it should be played. So I would tell parents today, play the game of life the way it needs to be played. Don't give your kids things. Give them a little vitamin N, which is no, we're not going to do that. Be an authority, again, without being an authoritarian. Don't be the permissive, but that's where most parents are today. "Oh, Dr. Lehman, Ralph and I feel very strongly about this. We believe every child should be a winner. Every child gets a trophy." I don't know what they think of these things.
Well, psychologically, it is so counterintuitive because you want the good things. You want that feel good. You want everything to be positive.
If you never learn to lose,
well,
if you never
exactly.
learn to
The logic
lose,
is there. It's
you end up grooming little cupcakes.
Well, obviously, the logic is there. The emotion fights it. You want the feel good.
Well, I think positive expectations play a lot now. We're starting a charter school out in Arizona. I'm going to put them all over the country, called Lehman Academy of Excellence. And that's sort of funny because I didn't do real well in school as a kid. But one of the themes of our school is no excuses from you as a parent or your kid. Excuses make the weak weaker. So I believe that you can have a school system, you can have a business, you can have a family, where you have high expectations for kids. I did a radio show early this morning, and I made this statement: when the kids went out at night, I'd always say, "Hey, don't forget, remember, you're a Lehman." And someone asked me at an event once what that meant. And I said, I don't have a clue what it means. It just means, remember, you're a Lehman. In other words, there's an expectation that I, as your parent, have on you as a kid that you're going to conduct yourself in a good manner. And I don't think parents understand the weight of their own words.
It's an example, too, that you set as a parent, the way you behave. I mean, you know, my dad was the kind of guy that would, you know, having grown up in the Depression and that kind of existence, he would walk around the house and he would turn out lights in the room. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you were still in there reading, but you know, that's the kind of behavior he had. He didn't want anything to be wasted, and it set the tone for life. You basically make the most out of everything that you have and don't waste anything.
Yeah, as you said that, Phil, I can still hear my father saying, "Hey, who left the front door open? What were we doing, heating the neighborhood?" You know,
exactly.
And that's just the way it is. And you know, we've lost sight of the fact. Being a parent is not easy, but here's the curveball. It's pretty simple. It's simple. It's not complex.
Well, you be yourself.
Just be the parent you need to be. You know, it's just like an employer. If someone screws up, well, let's just take a workplace where there's twins working. and you have one really responsible twin and one twin that, you know, sometimes he doesn't do things right. Well, what do you do to that one twin that's not doing things right? You pull them aside. Do you do it in front of everybody?
You take them to the shed.
You take them to a quiet place and say, hey, listen, we can't do that. Time out. We got to do things differently. And so there's a way to correct things using your head. Don't be an idiot about it. And everybody wins, and we all start going in the right direction. And it'd be great. We'd have a better country if everybody went in the right direction in families today, but they don't.
Well, we're going to come back in just a minute. When we come back, Dr. Lehman has kind of taken a step into a new direction. He's got a book out there that's actually a fiction book, and we'll talk about that new direction just as we come back.